but at least you could have arguments against why public health policies in the Greater Horn of Africa are bad. You should have that strategy ready to go. So hopefully you spend, I'd like to spend as little time as possible. Even though the 2AR is the 3-minute speech, I like to have like 3 minutes of prep to prep the person. I like to have as much as possible. You need to win the debate. That you want to, even if you don't need it all, even if sometimes you're like, oh well, I left myself 3 minutes, well I need 30 seconds. Like, oh well, I mean, use it anyway. Like, make sure you know exactly what you're going to say. Hand write out your overview or type it out on your laptop if you use a laptop. Like, whatever. Like, spend that. Use all of that time to prepare yourself for that speech as much as possible, because that's when you win the debate. Especially the 1NR, probably even more so than 2AR, I think. Because that's like too many 1NRs don't weigh. I've seen too many 1NRs that treat it like a second constructive instead of like the actual. That is your only chance to win the debate. You have to both win the debate and win the arguments. You should probably spend some time thinking about how you're going to do that rather than giving yourself a minute. So, and there's a lot of people that do that. I mean, I think a lot of people do. I think if you think back to your rounds that you've had, it's probably more often that you use more than half of your prep time for your 1NC and leave less than half of your prep time for your 1NR. Probably the opposite should be true. And so there are things you can do before you even get to the tournament to make sure that happens. Like having a strategy prep that's, you can even practice it. You can practice reading a 7-minute 1NC that's generic, full of generic arguments against a certain topology of case, like a trade case or a whatever. And you can prep those and have those ready to go. So that prep time is easy. You shouldn't, like, writing arguments in prep time almost should only happen on like linebacker and stuff. You shouldn't be like writing a T in prep time or writing a dissad or that's parley stuff. They don't even have prep time. Does anyone have any more questions? These have been good questions. I think these have been very valuable. Nick.
I just want to know if you'd be explicit in this scenario. Let's say you're the affirmative, someone stands up, 8-off case. What's the general strat against it?
If I was the affirmative?
You're the affirmative. 8-off case. And
yeah.
Who do you know your strat?
It depends on how fast they were, I guess.
Yeah,
and not in terms of like if I thought that I should run a speed criticism or something, just because you could do that in LD, that's offense now. And now, like you've changed you've changed the game in that. Like some people might scoff at running a speed criticism in that instance, but I think one reason to do it is their 7-minute speech was totally irrelevant. You turned the debate into a 6-6-3 debate round, and that's it, right? Like, what are they? They're just going to extend one of the off case you dropped, and then be like, if I win the speed criticism, then I'm going to win on the dissad that I read that they didn't answer because they conceded all of my 8-off. But then they have to win the entirety of the speed criticism. I mean, that's one out. Or you could just try to cover. You could run offense on every position, no defense on any positions, group procedurals, and run theory offense against the voters of the procedurals that share voters, like group disads that have nuclear war, run Spark, whatever. I don't know. I mean, I would just group and off. I wouldn't say anything that wasn't a turn, probably. It's hard. Like if they ran it off, like obviously, that's not an easy round to win.
I mean, I did speed, and I actually had a scenario like that, and I did speed.
And you ran the speed.
And I won.
I mean, it depends on the judge too. Like
Yeah.
if you have a judge that's open to it, they probably made a mistake reading 8-off to begin with. Probably all you had to say the word was say the word speed, and you're going to win the debate, right? Like in those instances. So, Mark.
What do you think of? So I was keeping this around playing the affirmative lecture, like going for collapsing the debate very, very quickly, like in the 1AR, making the debate on one issue kind of thing, like receptive to it, run a KFT for 6 minutes, make the round about whether or not words should have fixed meanings, or make the round about whether or not the 1NC was too fast, or a 6-minute language game. This like doesn't. I think that may hurt your time trade-off because then you've got to give effectively a first responsive speech.
Oh yeah, no, I agree that can be extremely strategically valuable in LD. What year was it? 2 years ago, when we had a debater who all he wanted to do was run nuclearism in the 1AR. He ran an AF that specifically people would read a nuclear dissed too, but like the link was just so obvious, like everyone had the same dissed like every round, and then he would just kick his affirmative or nuclears in the 1 hour, like every time. And I mean, he was semi-successful doing it, but not amazing at it. People catch on, obviously. Don't read terminal impacts to their dissets anymore, and then what are you gonna do, right? But then in those rounds, he's like, okay, fine, I can beat this dissed. That's cool. This is easy. Like he didn't read a terminal impact. Sweet.
But, I mean, you've got to then cover their 6 minutes of responses in 3. And anything you can see loses the round for you effectively.
I mean, it depends, but.
I mean, if they're making good responses.
I mean, you have to pick your spots. Like, if you're gonna lose the debate unless you do that,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
then you should probably trade. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
you
probably
do.
not something you do every time you're affirmative.
They probably also don't have prep time left.
Right, they might not have prep time left.
Oh, at least a couple, or, spreads out a lot more, because then it gives you a chance.
I guess, but then, I mean, are you gonna have 4 separate, offensive positions that have nothing to do with the rest of the debate?
If you're going one off or something for 6 minutes, they're probably not going to have 6 minutes of answers to it. I mean, a lot of people aren't that prepared on really specific issues.
Well, I mean, I guess it would depend on the issue you've got in play, but like, I mean, people should generally, we're very friendly players in debate with at least 6 minutes of framework cards. Or, you know.
I mean, I wouldn't think. Like, honestly, like, I wouldn't have. I would have had to take prep.
I mean, just to find it, but I mean, yeah.
No, I don't. I didn't have that.
I see what you're saying, Mark. Like, and it's probably dangerous. It's not like you probably don't want to put yourself in situations where you have to kick your affirmative very often, right? Like that doesn't sound like the smartest idea. Right? But there have been times where I've done it and I've coached people to do it. Like for instance, I was saying that debater wanted to run nuclears, right? Like sometimes you do it.
Yeah.
But it is dangerous. That's definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like such a mixed bag. There's at one time you get to move their longest speech, but at the same time, then you're stuck giving a 2-1 straight responsive speech. You can't collapse at all in the.
Well, you get to collapse a little bit because they can't spend their entire time just responding to you. They have to try to win the round too, right? Like,
Yeah.
so they're spending some time in the limelight and some time on the calculus and on winning. And it means that not only do they probably should be reading turns too. Like that's going to be the most dangerous part for them, if they should be reading lots of turns. If they're reading lots of turns and able to do that, yeah, your 2 hours going to be really difficult.
But the 2 AR doesn't have to be the most warranted speech in the world because it's not getting responded to.
Right. Also true.
Turn, that's not true, and that's a golden response. I mean, just as, no, I mean, realistically, if I run speed good, or speed bad, and then I say, no, turn speed good, it increases critical thinking, and I say,
Turn, no, it doesn't.
no, turn critical thinking bad, it leads to racism. Like, all I'm saying is if you've got me in the back, that's a golden response.
So every time Lafayette debates in front of you and they're affirmative, they should run a criticism in the 1 AR. Is that what I'm saying? Hearing from you? And then all of our offenses in 2 AR is always golden. Everyone else is paying attention to that.
NFA's gonna be good this year.
I say that to people in Parley all the time too. The MG should be running criticisms like every round, every time. Any other questions? I mean, I hope this was helpful. I hope that it gives you a better idea of like what to be doing strategically as you set up the wins for debate. I think it's been helpful to some of my debaters. I've had this. A lot of this was redundant for some of my kids, but
Okay, this morning was redundant.
there we go.
It wasn't redundant, John. For the first time in coaching, you tried Sounds like I've lectured in front of my children before. I promise.
Like what kind of girl? Like in a very good.
That was quiet.